Well, for more on where this debate is heading next, I can speak now to Republican Congressman Tom Cole from Oklahoma. He joins me from Capitol Hill. Congressman Cole, this is the most significant piece of legislation to even be discussed in 20 years, and yet by the standards of what people had been proposing, some people might have wanted after the Newtown killings, it's pretty small beer, isn't it?
Well, I think that remains to be seen, but there's no question, look, this country, it's a constitutional right, as you know, to bear arms. And while they're subject to some limitation, it's something that people take very seriously. On top of that, it's geographically very diverse, and people have very different ideas in different parts of the country. So I think it's important that the debate happen. I'm glad it's going ahead on the Senate, and we'll see what they do. And I suspect if they pass something, and I think they probably will, the House will take it up.
Well, you come from a state, Oklahoma, which is one of those rural states that has quite a strong gun culture. What would people there, what would your constituents say to you if you said, actually, you know what, I think we should expand the background checks on who can buy guns in this country?
I think it would depend a lot on what happened to the checks. That is, they'd be very concerned if they thought a permanent list was going to be kept of gun owners. They don't trust the federal government with that kind of a list. And they would be very concerned if they saw it as the beginning of a process that would lead to further limitations on both the exercise and possession of particular kinds of weapons. And you're quite right. I mean, the state is a hunting culture. Probably every other household, at least, has guns. People grow up with them. They use them responsibly. They're very, very skeptical of having their freedoms, they would argue, restricted because a few people don't use them responsibly.
Well, what do you think? Do you think that having background checks on people who are mentally ill, who are felons, to try and prevent them from being able to buy guns, do you think that would make a difference to the number of gun deaths in the country?
I think it would make some difference, without a doubt. And I think probably there's some things that can be done in both of those areas. But I think this is a much deeper cultural problem than it is just simply a question of the availability of weapons. There are a lot of weapons in the United States, over 300 million legally in circulation. And so, you know, whatever you did, you're not going to see an immediate diminution of that.
So you're suggesting that actually there should be some larger action to try and bring down the number of guns in the country?
No, I wouldn't suggest that at all. I think, you know, again, there's some sort of appropriate background check mechanism. We have that certainly when you go into a gun store today. It seems to work pretty well. So looking at that makes sense. But again, there's going to be a lot of questions. There's other aspects of the Senate bill that are worth looking at. Mental health concerns, certainly approving the state's ability to maintain lists of people that are mentally unstable, those type of things. But again, I think Congress is actually doing what it's supposed to do. It's taken up the problem. It's moved legislatively now onto the floor of the Senate. We're going to be seeing a lot of amendments in the next few days. I think, again, if something is passed out of there, the House will probably take it up and begin to work on it as well.
Congressman, if no new gun control laws are enacted, even in the wake of the killings at Sandy Hook Elementary, would you be disappointed?
Not necessarily. It depends on what the laws are. Look, I think this is still primarily a state matter, primarily a matter for local regulation. There are an abundant number of laws on the books. Most of the things that have been proposed so far in legislation actually wouldn't have changed the tragedy that happened in Newtown. So, again, I think there's deeper questions here probably than just legislative answers. But, again, the debate has been an important one, and I think one that is good for us to have. The discussion is, and legislatively there is obviously a vehicle out there, and it's moving. So let's wait and see what happens.
Okay, Congressman Tom Cole, fair to say, I think, still on the fence on the issue. Thank you very much for joining me from Capitol Hill.